The people who built the Boeing aeroplane were going to be put to a very big test. Their aim was to build the largest man-carrying aeroplane in the world. The result would change aviation forever. The Boeing 747, the jumbo jet that transformed international travel, is the big, dazzling aircraft you see on the screen. But the astonishing secrets hidden beneath its aluminum skin are invisible to the naked eye. How did one of the most recognizable aircraft in history become an obsolete aircraft in just a few years? And why, for reasons unknown, builders of large airplanes always go bankrupt? Even the most ardent aviation fans rarely hear the stories of the Queen of the Sky, from hidden powers to record-breaking achievements that seem unthinkable even by today's standards. I'm going to reveal 10 surprising 747 secrets that will change the way you look at this iconic aircraft. I want to share a secret that no one expected, but first subscribe, and one day you too will have an aircraft like this. And that secret is that this aircraft has a hump, the one that people have. At first it was used to carry freight, but later it was used for people. When engineers at Boeing first designed the 747 in the 1960s, they believed that supersonic travel would make conventional jets obsolete within a few years. The primary purpose of the 747's design was to carry cargo, which it could quickly adapt to meet the inevitable drop in passenger demand. The cabin is a marvel of very good engineering. The front of the cabin opens like a man's mouth opens, and there was a reason for that, and that was to load cargo. The cockpit was raised above the main deck just to keep it out of the way during loading operations. This idea was first put forward by a famous businessman while flying this aircraft for people. You could actually sit in front of the pilots on the 747. Passengers are positioned further ahead of the flight crew on the nose of the lower deck, offering a view that no other commercial airline can have. Think about that for a moment. While most other passengers sit at the back of the cockpit, flying in this aircraft is a mesmerizing ride, like traveling under the sea. Originally conceived as a temporary solution, the aircraft's distinctive profile has become instantly recognizable from anywhere in the world. Supersonic subsonic is the second secret. Would you be surprised to hear that the 747 is the fastest subsonic commercial aircraft still in use today, despite being more than 50 years old? While contemporary aircraft such as the Boeing 787 Dreamliner and Airbus A350 surpass the 747 in terms of efficiency, range, and technology, none can match the jumbo's unmatched speed. At Mach 85, 747-400 and 7478 are cruising at altitude that's 564 miles per hour. In contrast, the majority of modern airlines operate at Mach 0.8. This aircraft flies faster and saves time compared to other aircraft. The best-saving aircraft is #1 in the world. This became apparent when a 747 belonging to British Airways encountered a strong jet stream over the North Atlantic in February 2020. The result was a crossing from New York to London in 4 hours 56 minutes, breaking the previous subsonic record and approaching the speed of the supersonic Concorde. This raises a fascinating question. How did engineers of the 1960s use wind tunnels and scroll rules to create an aeroplane that is still too slow for today's computer-aided competitors? The flying rescue mission is the third secret. This is an aeroplane that's been tasked with rescuing a lot of people. This aircraft is a doctor. Ethiopia was on the brink of civil war in May 1991. At the last moment, Israel launched Operation Solomon with a 36-hour window to evacuate Ethiopian Jews. But how could thousands of refugees cross half of Africa in a few hours? It needed a Superman, this aeroplane of course. To create a hollow flying shell, LL Airlines dismantled most of the interior furniture of a 747-400. What happened next is hard to believe. More than twice its typical capacity, 1,088 people boarded this aircraft, creating a record that continues to this day. To accommodate this record passenger load, the flight crew had to make complex calculations. Everyone has limits, but not this aircraft. For example, 2 women gave birth to 2 children each and nothing happened, and it carried many people. No other aircraft could match the jumbo's performance when lives were at stake. Have you ever thought about what other extraordinary qualities your aeroplane might have? Masterpiece of analog, secret 4. How would you react if you were faced with 971 buttons, gauges, and lights, all of them important? This was the situation pilots faced when the 747 first entered service. Before the development of technology, 3 people worked as pilots, and they worked hard. But this aircraft was reduced to 2 people as a great start of technology and provided the opportunity to work more comfortably. A dedicated flight engineer had to oversee a number of vital systems such as fuel transfer, power generation, cabin pressurization, and environmental controls. And pilots had to look after the flight. Each role was part of a complex orchestration and required specialized training. You have to have a very good mathematical memory to know the 747 cockpit. It created a different culture. Many argue that the traditions and camaraderie that crews developed on transoceanic flights have disappeared in the digital age. The mechanical interface between these aviators and their huge machines had a very human quality. The pilots who were competent on the 747 were seen by everyone as a precedent. For many, certification in the Queen of the Sky was much more than a career achievement. Their flying careers had reached their peak at that time. For today's pilots in charge of computerized systems, it can be difficult to grasp the tactile relationship their ancestors had with this marvelous device. The direct feedback from each button movement and gauge reading allowed them to establish a close relationship with the aircraft systems. This secret is a gamble. That is, nobody was brave enough to build that airplane in the old days. But the Boeing owners took a gamble and built this airplane against all odds. The scope of their work was astonishing. The 747 would require more than 6 million parts, 171 miles of cable, 5 meters of pipe, and 75,000 engineering drawings. Nothing of this magnitude could be built in any of the facilities already available. Boeing's solution was to build the Everett plant in Washington State, the largest structure in the world by volume. At 398,000 square meters, it is still the largest building in the world by volume. This is more than just engineering, it's a brainstorm. It was a turning point in logistics. The group that made it happen, known as the Incredibles, worked tirelessly and often found solutions to problems that had never been encountered before. Think about it. This airplane took as long to build as a baby takes to develop. For a much simpler airplane today, that time frame would be considered unachievable. If no one had used the airplane and no one had bought it, the company would have gone under and the workers would have been unemployed. The program cost more than $160 billion, which is about $9 billion in today's money. To put it in perspective, this was more than the entire net worth of the company at that time. It was much more than a brand new aircraft. It was a risky gamble to change the face of international aviation. Although we have looked at some of the 747's amazing features, the most puzzling mysteries are still waiting to be discovered. Before we go any further, I want to know, have you ever flown a 747? Share your memories of this legendary aircraft in the comments section below. Now let's discover why the most remarkable feature of the 747 is almost non-existent. Secret 6. An engineer recently wanted to give this aircraft a new look, and he succeeded. The modern 747 had an almost completely different look. Joe Sutter, Boeing's chief engineer, originally had a true double-decker design in mind. It could carry passengers like the double-decker buses in the UK, and there was a disadvantage to that. That is, if you take a lot of passengers, the size of the aircraft will gradually become the size of a small child. But there was a serious problem with safety rules. There were FAA regulations, and that was to get this airplane out as quickly as possible. Engineers soon discovered that in an emergency, it would be almost impossible to evacuate 2 full decks from the few available exits. This necessitated a serious redesign. After the entire upper deck was discarded, only the partial upper deck we know today remained. This process, which began as a compromise, inadvertently created the recognizable silhouette of the 747, the graceful curve that makes it instantly recognizable around the world. This aircraft has many advantages, one of which is the possibility to modify the aircraft more easily. The cockpit is securely positioned above the main deck on the partial upper deck. It has a hinged nose section that can be fully open, making it possible to load oversized cargo. Thanks to its versatility, the 747 had an extremely long service life. Once the passenger versions are retired, they can be converted into freighters, which will extend their useful life by several decades. Herein lies the irony. The feature that distinguished the 747 from others was not present in the original model. The most elegant solutions are sometimes the result of engineering constraints. The flying canvas is the 7th secret. If it were the size of a small office building, how would you paint it? A gigantic operation involving specialized facilities, knowledgeable technicians, and extraordinary attention to detail to make this aircraft. The engineers first sandpaper it and get to its metal and do everything there. The reason for this is to identify and repair the things that prevent the aircraft from flying. The transformation follows this. Painting a 747 requires about 455 liters of paint, which is difficult to find and very expensive. Airlines calculate fuel consumption to the decimal point, which may seem insignificant for an aircraft weighing more than 350 tons. Let me tell you a secret. If the aircraft is very heavy, the oil is bought at a very high cost, so they charge you money when taking very overweight suitcases on board. The actual painting process is extremely delicate. After the primer application, several layers of color are applied, each of which must be cured before the next is applied. To guarantee a flawless application, painters use special equipment on environmentally controlled hangars. The way airlines strike a balance between aesthetic preferences and pragmatic concerns is what makes this topic so interesting. A few carriers splurge and paint very well, and some are stingy and paint very little. Qantas's single, dreamy, Aboriginal-inspired design and British Airways' unique vintage Boeing livery. This showed how the enormous canvas of the 747 can be seen from far and wide and become a cultural statement. Record-breaking, secret eighth Qantas. In 1989, a move was made that was both surprising and applauded by all. This was the crossing of a very long space. Limits were not only being pushed, they were being broken. The 747-400ER could carry up to 63,500 gallons of jet fuel, which was enough to run a normal car for more than 50 years. It went down in history as a very difficult flight because it carried so many people. Boeing engineers had to completely rethink the aircraft's capabilities for this record-breaking flight. They added more fuel tanks in places usually used for cargo and removed unnecessary equipment to lighten the load. After more than 20 hours of flight, the aircraft landed with very little fuel. This achievement was particularly noteworthy because specially designed aircraft, such as the Airbus A350ULR, are a diamond in the rough for special flights. Because those aeroplanes are for long flights, imagine the consequences of this. Engineers did such a thing that the aircraft has not been changed for nearly 40 years. Not only was the 747 ahead of its time, future aircraft would aim to match its defining capabilities. This was more than a publicity stunt. It demonstrated that the 747's design had unrealized potential that went far beyond its initial parameters. In addition to revolutionizing air travel, the 747 also contributed to the conquest of space. NASA has become dependent on this aircraft to operate its spacecraft. NASA engineers added vertical stabilizers to the tail section to eliminate aerodynamic interference caused by carrying the shuttle on the back, and discarded the contents to make the fuselage structure capable of carrying a lot. These 747s played an important but often overlooked role in America's space program, completing 87 ferry flights carrying shuttles such as Endeavour, Atlantis, and Discovery. Consider the engineering problem. How can a 78-ton spacecraft be safely mounted on top of a commercial passenger aircraft to maintain stable flight characteristics? NASA's solution demonstrated the strength of the 747's design and the creativity of aerospace engineers. In 2012, the modified 747 was given one last chance and allowed to fly for the last time before being asked for permission to be taken to Los Angeles, where it was then put on display. An extraordinary episode ended with one icon of American innovation literally carrying another on its back. What other commercial aeroplane could fulfill this unique function? Only this aircraft, of course. The solution is simple: none of them. Secret 10, the phenomenon of culture. The 747's most astonishing secret is not technical at all. It is that a machine has transcended its intended use to become a worldwide cultural phenomenon. One of the records of this aircraft is that it is thought to have carried the entire humanity, including the number of people born and died in the world during the time it was built. However, statistics do not fully reflect the true significance of this aircraft. The remaining passenger 747s will eventually be replaced by newer, more efficient aircraft. They're losing something intangible. There was more to the Queen of the Sky than its technical superiority. Everyone in the world had the appearance that this aircraft could be respected and bowed to. The 747 is a reminder that even in an age of algorithmic design and efficiency optimization, some machines have the capacity to impact humanity in a way beyond their technical capabilities. The Boeing 747, with its breakthrough speed and unparalleled passenger capacity, was much more than an aeroplane. It had the power to carry anything. He was a revolution in flight. Each secret we uncover reveals a different aspect of his extraordinary legacy. It will probably go down in world history as the world's greatest aeroplane. It made previously unthinkable connections between continents, cultures, and lives. Yes, the 747 is a symbol of something that is becoming increasingly rare, a triumph of engineering that balances human experience and technical skill. We have to thank the people who built this aircraft, and we can think they had a very good brain. They produce beauty. As the last jumbo jets leave passenger service, we say goodbye to much more than an aeroplane. We say goodbye to a time when flying was still a magical experience. The Queen may be retiring, but her reign has had a lasting impact on our world. Which 747 experience stands out most in your memory? If you've never flown, which of these secrets surprised you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments.